Hello and welcome to Mississippi Insight. I'm Byron Brown. Thank you for joining us. This week, the mayor of Jackson kicks off an exclusive series of monthly interviews with 12 News. Chokwe Antar Lumumba offers his thoughts on the Hinds County sheriff's race, interagency support for crime fighting in Jackson, the city's emergency garbage arrangement, and what comes next, and Mayor Lumumba's vision for Jackson in the years to come. Our interview with the mayor of Jackson begins now on Mississippi Insight. Join us via Zoom is the mayor of Jackson, Chokwe Antar Lumumba. Mayor, welcome back to Mississippi Insight.
Thank you, Byron. It's a pleasure to speak with you and a pleasure to share with your listening audience.
Well, we're recording this right after the special election for Hinds County Sheriff. It appears interim Sheriff Marshawn Chrysler and Captain Tyree Jones will face each other on the November 23rd runoff election. As mayor of Jackson, do you have any thoughts on these two candidates and what should a new sheriff bring to office in terms of addressing crime in the county and in the city?
The only thoughts that I would share is that both gentlemen have demonstrated lifelong commitments to public safety. And so what we want in the city of Jackson is just a partner, someone who's willing to help engage and help implement all of the measures that make our city safer. And so I know that the election process is tedious. I know that both gentlemen are dealing with a great deal of stress in this process. And so I'm just prayerful that they both are well and that the outcome is best for the city, best for the county.
What are your thoughts on the state of relations between the city and the sheriff's department? And are you happy with that partnership as it stands right now?
Well, there are ongoing communications. Our police department speaks on a consistent basis with the sheriff's department. I think that one of the challenges that we have presently is that the sheriff's department is undermanned or doesn't possess the people power, just as the city of Jackson has the same challenges. And so that leads to areas of coverage that are not taken advantage of. One of the principal responsibilities that they have at the sheriff's department is making certain that they have enough personnel for the jail. And that has proven to be a challenge over time. And seeing how that is a significant challenge, it also leaves increased challenge in terms of patrol. And so we understand that they're trying to overcome this challenge as we are trying to overcome our personnel challenges in the city. We have now had 10 recruiting classes. We have now been supportive of, a salary increase or a career path for recruits, making certain that we eliminated the gap, the 10-year gap that it took for them to see a sizable increase in salary, making certain that we maintain the people that we train. And now we have seen the creation of essentially a stipend for our senior officers. Our administration has actually advocated for an actual pay raise, and we wanted to use reoccurring funds or a dedicated line for that reoccurring expense. And so we know that they are similarly positioned at the sheriff's department, and they want to deal with this challenge as well.
What other cooperative operations would you like to see with the sheriff's department?
Well, we have a lot of city to cover, and seeing how all agencies are dealing with the challenge of fewer people who want to enter the career of law enforcement, it means that we have to be creative in how we make certain that we engage and protect all communities. This is one reason that our administration was very decisive and put our money where our mouth was in terms of the creation of a real-time command center. That real-time command center is a useful tool that law enforcement, both JPD and other law enforcement, from the sheriff's department to the highway patrol and any agency that has concurrent jurisdiction in the city of Jackson, can utilize, not only for crime-solving measures, but also in the event of an emergency. And so while this has been a tool that we have invested in, it's time that we take it from a good idea to a useful resource. Right now, it's still in the good idea phase because we haven't had all of the resources necessary to fully implement the coverage that we need across the city to ensure that, if someone steals a car, that we're able to track them through the system, see where they stopped, and respond immediately. If there is a violent incident to take place, then we can recover in a moment, not days later where we have to go and then look at the tape later on. In a moment, we can find out what took place and where people are. We can provide information to officers immediately. In the same way dispatch speaks to officers, patrol officers, while they are in their cars. We can have the added resource of video images to help inform their service.
What would get you there where the system would be at its full potential? What do you need to get there?
Well, we need additional resources to get the system at its full potential. Additional resources to add more cameras in certain communities. We need additional resources in terms of the personnel that can be there at the Realtime Command Center at all hours. We want to make certain that it is staffed on a 24-hour basis, and that is important. The information is only as good as our ability to use it and to disseminate it. And so having someone there at the Realtime Command Center that is capable of disseminating that information on an ongoing basis is certainly important. We're not only looking at that in terms of the utilization of our ARP funds. We need to make certain that anytime we talk about policing and policing efforts, that we're able to use a ongoing or a consistent line of funding in order to address this.
If there's not enough jail space in Hinds County, can you not utilize jail space in other jurisdictions and other counties?
Well, I actually called around to do that. First and foremost, I called Rankin County and Madison County because they are closest to us. There was an inability to do that from their leadership. They said they were ill prepared to do that based on their own demands and needs, and also concerned over the pandemic. And then I personally reached agreements with the sheriffs of Holmes County and Yazoo County after the council made a decision last budget season to allocate funds there. It was me who called those sheriffs. The challenge that we then met was with one of our Hinds County judges that informed our officers, our police department, that was not a suitable solution for them. And so I think that we can stretch beyond that. But I think it's important that we have the necessary conversation so that everybody on every end of this challenge understands what we are facing. To that effect, I am actually convening a crime summit where a number of invested parties will be present. It will be closed to the media. It will be closed to the public for the mere fact that I want to make certain that a work product comes out of it. I don't want rhetoric. I don't want just, an academic conversation. I want to walk away with homework assignments so we know who's doing what, who's on first base, who's on second base, who's on third base, and so on and so forth. And I think that is important to do because once you see all angles of a problem, then it is easier to understand how maybe some of the solutions we've been looking at are insufficient. It is, when I break it down in this way, right? Then it becomes a clearer picture. Then it's not just the matter of one person's decision to have an aggressive response to crime. And so this is why we have to attack it in every form. We have to attack it in terms of being, tough when things take place, but also what are our efforts to reduce the occurrence of things taking place in the first place.
You have a date for your summit, and when do you plan to have that?
I do have a date, but Byron, I'm going to not share it just because our first date is aggressive. I want to see who RSVPs first. If they do not, if we don't have sufficient RSVPs because we're trying to call this in an emergency capacity, then we will be doing it as the latest date we would be doing it is next week. But we're trying to do it sooner than that.
Mayor, we just had recently some high-profile carjackings. The one on Sunday where a family in Belhaven was trick-or-treating and they were carjacking and a gun was pointed in a 4-year-old's face. And then you have the Lyft car driver who was shot 7 times just yesterday. a lot of people who message us on Facebook and other means are saying they just don't feel safe in the city. What can you do to make people feel safe in the city? And they're not looking at long-term solutions. They want something done immediately right now.
Well, I think you can't answer that question without considering everything I just laid out for you, Byron. First and foremost, I'd like to say that our heart goes out to the families of both of those in both of those circumstances, and that's heartbreaking. That is unfortunate, and we have seen unfortunate events such as those all across the city, and that is important to recognize. It is heartbreaking when it happens in the Belhaven community. It's heartbreaking when it happens in South Jackson, and so we have to respect and appreciate that this is a challenge that all of our residents are dealing with, and so we have to go through the layers of that challenge, right? When I see a hurt family say, well, we don't, the mayor has to do something. Well, what policy are you disagreeing with? Are you disagreeing with the 10 recruit classes that I have had? Are you disagreeing with the $4 million real-time crime center that I've invested in? Are you disagreeing with the decision that the administration brought forward to increase the officer salaries? Are you disagreeing with the notion of working with violence reduction agencies and coordinated response across the city? I don't believe that they would disagree with any of those. But what we do is summarily, have a position of objection just because we don't like what we're seeing. None of us like it. And so it means that we have to dig in deeper.
All right, let's look at the state of the garbage collection in the city. It took court action to reach an agreement between your office and the city council. Now we're less than 2 months into a 6-month contract with Waste Management. Are you satisfied with this arrangement so far?
This arrangement is a necessary arrangement. I'm still seeing and still receiving reports of one man or one person on the back of the truck. That not only, is a problem for the workforce, meaning that one person has the responsibility of carrying two individuals load at one time, which deteriorates their bodies and leads to poorer service across the city. If one person is doing that, then they make a decision over what they're not going to pick up, because that is a human response when your body is beat down in that way. And so that is a concern. We also want to make certain that we have an honest and sincere bid process. When we have a company that legitimately wins a bid, that has an array of services that they provide, then it should be voted on based on its merits. And so that is important. And so we're doing a number of things to make certain that we take out any question or any allegation of bias in the process. The RFP is out on the street. We are anticipating that those that respond will do so in a blind process, meaning when the review committee looks at it, they won't even know company A or company B's name. They will be assigned some type of digit or identifying marker so that they're scoring based on the sincerity of the proposal itself. And so we're making certain that we go the extra step as an administration. And we want to make certain that after a bid is selected, whoever prevails in that process, that we have a sincere voting process to make certain that we're working in the best interest of our residents and also in the best interest of our workers. When we talk about issues like crime, there is an association with economic opportunities. Wherever you find high poverty, you find high crime. And so we have to demand that companies that contract with the city treat our workers correctly. You can't talk about the wages you give your workers only for us to find that 40% of your workforce is temp staff. But conveniently, your numbers indicate, high numbers of pay for your employees. You fail to tell us that a good majority or a good portion, not majority, but a good portion of your workforce aren't employees. And so that's a way that companies are able to steal higher returns, but not give us the service we deserve.
The monthly collection rate per resident rose from $10.56 last month to $15 now. What happens after this emergency contract expires, and should Jacksonians expect their rates to change again?
That is an unfortunate reality, and that's one that I spoke to when we were dealing with the contract issues. There was rhetoric that said, well, we don't want our rates to go up, ignoring the fact that every single company that bid at a higher rate. There's been some conversation, well, why don't we just keep, the same contract? That is not an available option. The contract expired. There were no more extensions available in that contract. And so you could no longer keep that rate. And so even the company that held the contract over the last several years, 3 decades, had even bid at a higher rate. And so that reflected, the numbers of all of the companies. And so that's one reason that the rate has to go up. Another reason, because there is no service available to us at the rate in which we presently pay. In addition, one of the other challenges is that we have failed to raise our rates in 12 years, coupled with the fact that our garbage bills, or our sanitation costs, I should say, are submitted in the same bill that you receive your water bill in. And so we know that the challenges that the city has had, that I've spoken extensively on, that we are correcting in terms of getting new meters out and correcting this issue. But it is all amounted over several years with lost revenue that has had our sanitation in the negative. One of the things we had to pay for when we got the Siemens money was the backlog of, or the backdated or due amount that we owed towards sanitation costs. And so these are the reasons that it is not, there is no path forward without us raising those rates.
As we wrap this up, Mayor, you gave your annual State of the City address last week. For residents who missed that, what do you want to tell people about the state of the city and where you see it headed in the years to come?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, as I acknowledged in the State of the City, there are challenges and there are things that we have to overcome. We are in a difficult time in our history, and not only as a city, but the history of the world. And so we have to be prepared to confront those. I think that the greatest resource we have as a city are our residents who are resilient, our residents who have chipped in, whether it was providing meals to people in the midst of this pandemic, whether it was helping to support educational efforts of not only their children, but other people's children. We've also seen investment in our infrastructure. There was a 20-year project that finally opened up in the Tougaloo community. We've seen roads addressed that have not been addressed in decades within our city, whether it's Capitol Street, which is underway, whether it's streets like Medgar Evers or Ellis Avenue, and I can go on and on and on and on. We aren't satisfied. We're optimistic over receiving national funds or federal funds to help address our infrastructure further. We've used 60% of our ARP funds already to address infrastructure challenges, namely and importantly, challenges of water distribution in South Jackson, paid for a more than $7 million pipe that is supposed to help increase the water pressure to South Jackson, to make certain that our residents, that our issues with dealing with water, we're not only creating a sustainable and resilient system of providing water, but also an equitable one, to make certain that certain corners of our city aren't disproportionately affected. That is important to us. We see different development projects that are taking place. I lifted up the work of the Eco Shed, and that is a place that sometimes our residents don't even know what is there for them. But that is a space that is centered around healthy food options and the growing of healthy foods that I'd like people to visit. We have development projects that we're supporting. I didn't even mention the tech campus that we're helping to support. with Dr. Nashley Cephas downtown in the downtown Jackson area. We didn't talk about how we're sponsoring a feasibility study on one of the latest projects on the Ferris Street community. And so I think that it is dangerous to subscribe to a single narrative. Yes, there are challenges. Yes, we have to be determined and persistent in addressing our challenges. But there's also been elements of progress within our city that we have to continue to build on.
Mayor Lumumba, thank you for joining us, Mississippi Insight. We look forward to having you back in the weeks to come.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, and we'll be right back. We want to thank Mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba for joining us this week and for agreeing to talk with us each month about the issues that Jacksonians really care about. We'll be back next weekend with more of the political and current affairs coverage that you demand. I'm Byron Brown. From all of us here at 12 News, make it a great weekend.